Welcome back to At Home with the Harriets. Thank you continuously for joining us on our podcast. We are 100 subscribers in.
100 subscribers, lots of subscribers.
Subscribers.
100 subscribers.
I know, can you believe that?
In such a short space. Short space of time. So thank you.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to every single person that has subscribed, every single person that has liked, commented, engaged with us. As we've said right from the beginning, it's a new thing for us, a new chapter.
Yeah, definitely. To be greeting everybody and opening up our world to you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, it's new, but your response has been encouraging.
Really encouraging. And it's do you know what I love as well? It's the private DMs, the messages from people that we know, people that we don't know, new people that are joining the journey, and everyone has been really, really positive. So genuinely, we're saying a massive thank you.
Yeah, and even phone calls. We get phone calls from family saying,
Yes, we do.
I do like this. And also they're saying it's a true reflection of what we know you to be.
Yes.
So we're not, this is not us putting a show on.
No, there's no show. This is what you get. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
I could really go into something there, but I won't.
Can you handle it?
What you see is
Just leave it
okay.
right
All right then. At the end of the last episode, we asked you to ask us some questions or DM us or, things that you wanted to know. And we had quite a few questions in, but we've decided to answer a few and then, space them out, I think, over so that we don't, bombard you with everything.
Yeah.
But one of them that came in was a question was, did singing come naturally to you both?
Yeah.
And when did you first realise that you have the gift?
Wow. Please answer first.
No, you go first, my
I would
darling.
like you to go first. Go ahead.
The war of the first. My story is that I was dancing. I belonged to a dance school from the age of 3 to 16. And I was doing tap, ballet and modern. And I absolutely loved tap. I used to do exams for it and all of the good stuff.
And we've actually seen a rebirth of this recently.
Yes, you have.
You've
I've got my tap shoes out and I'm ready.
Shoes, you've got the board. And,
I'm giving
it's
it.
amazing. Yeah. So if you go to her socials, you'll see her, the rebirth of tap. But go on.
Yeah. But the thing that I loved about it is I did exams. So I trained professionally with it.
Yeah.
And but the one thing that I didn't really enjoy was ballet.
Okay, yeah.
I loved the look of it, how the grace and everything. But I remember my teacher at the time used to walk around with a cane and tap our bums into when we'd stand at the bar for bar work. And I'd be like, listen, now when I think about it, like I didn't have a hope in hell of sticking my bum in. So I was just like, oh. So I became quite discouraged with it.
Yeah.
Until I started singing in the corridor. And the teacher was like, hold on a minute, we can turn this into a positive, which is great.
Yeah.
So when we do the performances, she asked me to just sing a solo.
Wow.
And it was in a massive theatre at the time. I can say it's fine. It was at Catford Broadway Theatre. Was my first solo at the age of 11. All the ushers had seen the rehearsals, and my mum and dad were coming to watch the show. And the ushers had gone up to my mum and dad and said, "Oh my goodness, you've got to see this young girl. She's singing Easter Parade." I remember it.
Wow.
The song, and she's going to sing tonight. You've got to see her. Anyway, I could walk out on the stage for the performance, and the ushers run over to my mum and dad, and they're like, "Oh my God, this is her, this is her, this is her." And my mum and dad are like, "That's our daughter."
That's our daughter, and they had no idea.
And they had no idea. They'd obviously heard me singing in the house, but they had no idea. And I sang the song, rapturous applause. It was amazing. I remember it to this day, and it was from then onwards really that it was like, actually, she's got something here, and let's try our best to support her and guide her as best as we could. The opportunities weren't as vast as they are now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And my mum and dad were novices to the whole industry and everything about it, but the fact that they could hear and the fact that everybody else was responding to it was my moment.
Wow.
What about yours?
Well, that was massive.
Yeah.
So my moment was probably just young. I've always said this, Michael Jackson was the inspiration.
Yeah. Love Michael.
We had kind of like the trio of Michael, Prince and Madonna, who were just huge in terms of live performances. But Michael's performances would always stick with me. So
You went to see him, right?
Yeah, twice. I mean, we saw the Bad and Dangerous tour.
Legacy.
Yeah, that's a whole nother life experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we saw Michael on TV and I was just singing his songs. My mum would always have a vast selection of albums in the house, and we would play the album, and I missed the sound of putting the needle on the record.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
the
and
vinyl.
listening to the vinyl from
Yeah.
track one all the way through. So we had people like Anita Baker in the house. We had Whitney Houston.
Same.
We had different gospel artists, reggae artists. I probably just sang along to those.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went into performing arts school, shout out to Sylvia Young Performing Arts School, I think that's where I started to realise that you could have a sound in your voice, but there's a way to refine it. So singing lessons then came in. Then I met the guys, and then we had our own singing teacher who was our first manager. Shout out to Rachel. And that's where I began to really start to refine it. But I always trace it back to like Michael and the albums that I listened to at home with my mum.
Makes sense. Do you know what? I should shout out the Glenlyn School of Academy of
Giving all this
Dance.
free advertising.
No, I know I should, but I was
it's
with
the
them
foundation.
from the age of 3 to 16, and
Yeah.
I should. You know, I had some fabulous times there. You know, doing the exams, as I said. So massive shout out to them.
Good.
And as you said, it has resurged.
Yeah.
My love of tap.
It has, and
Yeah,
the whole
so-
house can hear it.
Yeah, but you said I was good.
Oh no, it's good.
Yeah,
It's actually
thank you.
really good. So
Yeah.
maybe for your birthday coming up, we'll do a tap performance. Anyway,
Said
next
absolutely
question.
No one ever. Oh my
Question
God.
2 that we had was, what's the most pettiest argument that we have had,
Ooh.
and what was it about?
First of all, I think, do you know what? We're very smiley and happy people, and I think people will be generally surprised that we even argue. But
No, when it's
I
time,
think
when it's time, it's
yeah,
time.
when it goes down.
When it goes down, it's going down.
But I mean, it's I say it's good
Yeah.
to have. I've met people who generally say that they don't argue
No.
at all, and I'm not saying, I'm not being an advocate for. I think it's healthy.
Conflict
Yeah.
is healthy
Yeah.
because you have to disagree,
Yeah.
and then you find a
Ways.
position that you agree, and also you realize how far you want to or not want to go in certain arguments. And
Yeah.
I think when we first got married, I think it would have been more challenging because we were two people trying to come together.
Yeah.
And for sure, I would look at you and say, I can't believe we're in this drama. And you'd look at me and say, I can't believe we're in this drama.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. I think as well for us, whether people, lots of people wouldn't know, we didn't live together before we got married.
No.
We both came from our homes.
Yeah.
I was 27 and still at home. Like when I say that now, for some people that's still normal.
Yeah, of
But I was in my family home. I'd never left. I'd gone and travelled, and I'd, you know, worked abroad and etc. But I'd never like left home or had my. So when we moved in together,
It was the first experience.
it was the first experience. And as much as we'd spoken about it, and we've spoken that we had premarital counselling.
But we said
and-
on the last episode,
Yeah.
there's living in the marriage,
Yeah.
and then there's the actual, the dream, the fantasy of the marriage. Then you got to get in and really live in it.
You did lift me over the threshold
When we got to the house,
Yeah, when we got
for
to the
sure.
door.
I was like, let's have a go, and we did. Picked you up straight across. But what was the pettiest argument that we've had, and what was it about?
So I think very quickly we discovered, even though, as I said, we'd had premarital counselling, we'd spoken about different things, but our first thing was we found out how opposite, as much as we were very in sync with each other, we had quite a lot of opposites. And by that I mean I'm a very much a morning person, and I was like, you know, morning, windows, doors, everything's open, curtains are widespread, and you were like, no, close
Yeah,
it, close the
yeah.
curtains. Why is it so light in here?
Yeah.
And then it was like TV or
Yeah.
no TV.
We
was
had
like,
that. We said that it was about refining
Yeah.
what our day-to-day, the kind of the quirks that you bring in from being a bachelor.
Yes.
What's the female version of a bachelor? It's not a
I can't think.
is it bachelorette?
Potentially, I
Yeah,
think so.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow,
But
I
what-
feel like I'm on question
Yeah,
time.
no, but what we would bring in, what we brought in, that's where we started to rub early.
Yeah.
So do you remember the first? I'm trying to
I
get you
am.
to the
No,
thing.
Babe, I'm building.
Oh, you're
because,
building,
yeah,
okay,
You have
'cause
to
I
build
don't
the
remember
story.
it.
I'm a storyteller. Come
Yeah.
on.
We,
Anyway,
we
so-
know. Yeah, go on.
So
Yeah.
I remember, I think I was hoovering downstairs
Yes.
and doing my bit, and then you had called me from upstairs. This was in our first home, by the way.
Yeah.
You'd called me from upstairs, and you were like, Wendy, and I was like, I'm hoovering or whatever, and you were like, no, Wendy. So I was like, okay, turn the hoover off. Yeah. You were like, oh, could you just come here a minute? So I was like thinking, I've just told you I'm hoovering. Why are you calling me? So I go to the bottom of the stairs.
Mention this. Yeah.
I go to the bottom of the stairs, and you proceed to tell me you're holding a glass, and you were like, sorry, just wanted to let you know that you left your glass upstairs.
Yes, I remember this
I
now.
remember looking at you, like my eyes just went really small, and I was looking at you thinking, I do love this man, but is he joking?
Yeah.
Is he joking? And you were like, yes, I just wanted to tell you left your glass upstairs. Are you going to get it?
Yeah.
I was like, sorry, what are you
Wow.
talking about? And you was like, no, I just wanted to let you know. And then I think flip the script, because I was like, if I told you about every single thing that you
Yes.
leave out, socks, this, that, and the other, and you're not a messy person, but I'm saying if I was honest and said, oh my God, Andre, you left this here. Andre, your paperwork's
Then
here.
we'll
Andre,
be doing that, yeah, every day, yeah.
yeah. So I think that was one of our.
No, you're saying it really nicely and quite sanitized. You went from 0 to 1,000
Babe,
in
because-
a. No, hold on, let me add my piece now.
Oh wow,
You
okay,
went
yeah.
from 0 to 1,000 in a second.
I was mad.
You were raging.
Yeah.
Then I looked at you and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then we were in full blown,
Yeah, we were loggerheads.
lines drawn
Yeah.
war.
Yeah, like ready.
About
What you
ready
saying?
what's going on. And then it got to the point where I think I left to go and have a walk because it
Yeah.
just got too heated.
It was so explosive. It
And,
was.
and I remember calling my mum and I said, Mum, we just had like our big thirst. And she went, oh, this is normal, son.
Yeah.
Just take a breath.
She told you to come
Yeah,
back.
just go back into the house. Just go and apologise. But this is absolutely normal.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, man, it might be over. And my mum was like, no, son, this is just
Do you know
normal.
what? I think. Do you know what? There might have been a slam door.
Yeah, there's only one person that
For
slammed
me.
doors in our.
Yes, slammed. I don't now at all.
Didn't I say slammed?
Oh.
But in the early part of our marriage, I'd
Yeah.
be like, what's going on? I said, why are you slamming the door? We could just talk. So there were a few slam
That was-
doors. Don't know where that came from. We managed to get it out.
Yeah,
like
we
I
did.
said, you managed to get the TV out of me early in the marriage.
Yeah.
I managed to get the slam
Slam
doors.
door.
It wasn't early. It took a couple of years.
Oh,
it
no,
took a
don't
couple
you,
of
don't
years.
you even go
but
there.
We got the slam door
It was
out.
gone by the first year.
Really? Okay.
Yes, it
'Cause
was.
I remember it happened in the second house.
Oh,
Definitely.
are you joking?
But we got it out.
Oh my.
So now there's no more slam
Wow,
doors.
Andre, okay.
Yeah.
Is that where you're going?
Yeah. So that was it. Those are the two questions
you
we
back.
had. Those are the two questions. And when we do another episode, we'll answer some of the other
Yeah,
questions.
definitely, we will do. So now you have it.
There you
It's
go.
all on the table.
So today,
Yes.
we were thinking about this concept of pivoting.
Mm-hmm.
And we were saying there's been times in our marriage, in our early marriage,
Yeah,
where we had to pivot very quickly
very quickly.
in terms of our career.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to do today. Like, how do you pivot in the marriage? How do you make sure you support each other's ideas, each other's visions,
Yeah.
but also know as a couple, right, we need to make a change here for where we see we're going in the future.
Well, I think as well, we touched on it before, that we had a plan for our marriage. We said first 5 years we'd play, 6th year we'll try for a baby, 7th year we'll celebrate being as a family. And that is exactly what happened with us. So the first, I would say the first 4 years we were in a project together, a music project. It was called Cherry Blackstone. We toured up and down the UK. We were performing live and doing all sorts of things. And then we got to a stage in that project, there was a lot of red tape for us to go through, but I love the experiences that we had, who we worked with. We worked with band members. It was a real team effort.
But we have to mention the band members now.
Yeah,
we're
of
here.
course.
So
We had
it was
Ashton.
so it was myself, you, and Jade.
Yeah,
Then we had Ashton Miranda.
yeah.
Then we
Rupert.
had Rupert.
And Tom.
And we had
and then
Tom, Rupert Caney, Tom Dreisler. Then we had
John.
John on the bass.
Rowton.
John Rowton on the
Yeah,
bass.
yeah.
And then we had Anthony Reid, who was an
Yeah.
incredible sound tech for us, but then became bass player as well.
Yeah.
And we toured across, all of the UK with Beverly Knight, Jamie Cullum. We did great festivals.
Oh, no,
but it
that
got
was
to a
amazing.
point for us
Yeah.
in our marriage when we came back from the tour and we said, we're going to have to make a decision now.
Yeah.
We thought we'd have been signed a
Because-
lot quicker and, things just didn't align the way we would have wanted them to.
With our vision.
With our vision. Because,
And my time span is
and your
to be a mum.
Yeah, but also
Yeah.
I think we were a funk rock band and we had a clear vision of almost like the Black Eyed Peas, but
Yeah.
a bit more
And we were before social media.
before social media.
Yeah.
So, MySpace was the thing. If you were big on MySpace, then people were interested in signing you, which is nonsense. So we came and made a decision as a couple. Now we've toured. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Now let's get our heads down.
We toured and made an album.
Made an EP and an album.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
And some
and-
documentaries. Of
we did.
Yeah,
We did
We did
loads.
a lot. Yeah.
So we got to the point and we said, right, now we need to be really clear about what the next steps are for us in our
Yeah.
marriage.
And that was in the kind of 4th going into the 5th year.
5th year. So
Yeah.
where did you pivot? Where did you go to?
I pivoted and I went into teaching as a teaching assistant.
Mm.
Both my brother and sister are teachers.
Yes.
My sister teaches in Australia,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Hey.
Shout out to you. Love
Hey,
you.
what's happening?
And my brother He's also a teacher and an
Yes.
author.
Yes, Cobb, what's
Yeah,
happening?
a fantastic one.
I've
And
been shortening their names, sorry. Hi, Amma and
yeah,
Cobby.
it's
No, because
okay.
I'm like Am and Cobbs. They don't know who Am and Cobbs are.
No, but it's
Yeah.
fine. We do.
All right,
That's
cool.
that's the main thing. So
Cool.
it was always been in our family, and my
Yeah.
mum also worked in. My mum was a banker initially
Yeah.
in banking, and then when she pivoted, to make sure that she could be around for us as well. Both my parents were in banking actually. That's quite crazy, and she made sure that she was around kids. So I've always had it around me, and I love children.
Yeah.
I love working with them. But my angle as a teaching assistant, I went in and I started working with children with autism and Asperger's in mainstream school settings. And I realised very quickly, in order for me to have some stability, because I'd been in the music industry for quite some time then, I was singing for different artists as well and travelling with that. But I had nothing set in stone and nothing stable. I needed something regular. And so I went into that world, and we decided, okay, we're going to work here for a year. We're going to try for a baby. That was within our 6th year. It was a bit complicated, which we've discussed and spoken about, but I was still working a job where I was getting a regular salary. Which then, you know, in all honesty, I could apply for like maternity leave and all of that stuff that went, all the trimmings that went with it.
Yeah.
And
That was your pivot.
Yeah, that was my pivot that happened. So going into the schools now, even though I'd gone in on the educational setting, I'm a creative at heart, and I love being creative. I love seeing people reach their fullest potential. I love showering them and seeing them grow and blossom, and their confidence becomes, you know, they really transform into who they're purposed to be. I'm very much a big advocate for that. So then I set up a program within the school as well called Shining Stars.
I remember this.
Yeah, for the children. And it was oversubscribed. You could only run the club on a Wednesday. I was in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday because there were so many kids that wanted to attend. So much so, I'm going to digress for 5 seconds. I bumped into one of the children. She heard my voice. I was walking around somewhere in London, and she said, "Mrs. Harriet."
Yeah.
And I turned around and I didn't recognise her face. So obviously she's 23 now, she's grown up.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my goodness. And then she was like, yeah, you taught me at school. Those were some of my best days.
Yeah.
So that was my pivot to think, I want a family. What can I do that's a bit more stable?
Yeah.
And that's what I went into.
But what I loved is, and this is important for me, is that even in that, we would say as a couple, don't stray too far away from what your purpose is. What your calling is and what your gift is.
Yeah.
So you're not going to go in and be a TA and stop doing anything creative.
No.
If you're in the role, then baby, see if there's something you can do around the choir, something you can do with the kids. And then you started building that naturally. And that quickly took over. You were still doing a TA role, but before you knew it, that became the thing that the school was saying, could you focus on that? And then I remember you bringing in some of your artist friends into the school.
Oh my goodness, we brought in... Oh my goodness, I remember that. We took over the whole school. Misha B at the time was on X Factor.
Yeah.
And the kids had loved her and thought she was fantastic. And I've made some contacts and got her into the school, and the whole school was shut down for the day. It was absolute pandemonium in there, but it was amazing.
And you brought Peter in as well?
Yeah, Peter Andre's come. Peter Andre, he came into one of the school assemblies. All the mums lost their minds.
Of course they did. Of course they did. As
but
always.
Yeah, it was amazing. But that is something that I'll always be around and want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And mainly seeing, because what happened with the creative side is once those children identified that they can and that they're good and that they can be creative as well as academic.
Yes.
They started flourishing more in their academic side of things. So it came part and parcel. And I really loved being a part of that pivot, as you said. And it was still very close to home to me.
Yeah. But real conversations at home between us, like what's next for us.
Yeah.
And even within that, I'm going to say again, we would always say, hold on to the dream and the vision, which is how do I get back to using my skills, my gift, in my purpose, what I should be doing.
Yeah.
You know, I've always said I never want us to be in careers which is just about the salary, where we're losing ourselves.
It's demoralising. I know some people are not in the position also to do that, but I just know that's a choice also for us that we made to make it clear that we didn't want to do that.
And that comes with a lot of risk.
And sacrifice.
And that comes with a lot of sacrifice. Yeah. But we've been able to, and we're still carving out a path that enables us to use the gifts that we've been given and the talent we have in order to serve other people.
Yeah, and also we've got to shout out our family because we wouldn't be able to do anything without their support.
Impossible.
Yeah,
impossible.
And we've got our little team.
Yeah.
that really help us out, and friends which have
Yeah.
stepped in also in support. But talk about your one now. Your
So
pivot.
that was that pivot.
Yeah.
I think my pivot started earlier. My pivot started in 2003. I was DJing. So just when we
Yes.
got back together, I was DJing, and things had been going well. You know, the band had split for the first time. I
This was
started.
Damage.
This was Damage.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
split for the first time, early 2000s. Well documented. Don't need to go back through it. But if you want to know, go online and have a look at the big reunion,
Yes.
and you can have a look at Boy Bands Forever on BBC as well. Then I began working in a charity. So I remember sitting with you on the floor of our house, and you said to me, "What do you want to do moving forwards?" And I developed an ability to speak to people very young, and to speak to difficult situations, to almost just negotiate and deal with conflict in particular ways and find the best for both parties. And I found that I wanted to use that working with children.
Yep. And I was just going to say, just quickly, you
Yeah.
worked with me for a little while.
Oh,
Yeah, you came into a school with me.
oh yeah. So that
Just a
was
little tiny
right.
stint.
So
but yeah.
so just before that,
Yeah.
I'd been doing a tiny. It was a SEMH school, so a school for socio-emotional mental health experience children who experience socio-emotional mental health conditions and or difficulties. It was very complex children.
Yeah.
But you and I were there as a husband and wife team, and I think we brought something different to those children.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, just because of one, we were a husband and wife team, but also just anything's possible. I'm not going to look at the behaviour alone. I'm just going to believe that these children can do anything that they need
Yeah,
to
we
do.
did. We were very. We never went along with just the narrative of this is them and that's
And
it.
a lot of staff didn't either.
No, they couldn't understand that.
No, a lot of staff didn't go with that narrative. They also believed that the children could do whatever they want, but there are systems that sometimes hold the children into this is just about behaviour.
Yeah.
And I think we aligned with those staff that said, yeah, we can see the behaviour, we can still see the child.
Yeah, which is very important.
So I then pivoted into a charity because I remember sitting with you on the floor in the house, and at those times the jobs were advertised in the back of the newspaper. This is the pivot, because I'm not going to come from what I've just been doing with the band and just jump into anything. It's got to be something that
has to be
speaks.
strategic and meaningful.
Yeah,
like
but also
purpose.
speaks to the purpose.
Yeah.
Right. So then I saw an advertisement for a charity working in a mentoring capacity. Little did I know that it was not mentoring. This actually was mentoring for some of the most complex children in custody in the United Kingdom. And I went and worked with that charity.
And you were brilliant.
Yeah, but in a volunteering role. So there was no salary. You know, we're talking about them, you know, paying for train tickets and paying for your lunch, etc. But I began traveling around the UK, working with children who were in custody and trying to support them coming back into the community. That then led me to working for a local authority for nearly 10 years in a youth offending team, which are now known as Youth Justice Services. And I quickly found my calling in working with, as I say, complex, highly vulnerable, highly risky boys and girls.
But do you know what? Still as well, within that plan, within that pivot, you said to yourself, once we had a child, we're having, you know, once we were with child, once I was pregnant, you were like, I can't do what I've always done before. I'm going to take it up some notches.
No, yeah, we have to, because we need to. I don't want to do anything where you just kind of, you know, tiptoe around the edge of it.
Yeah.
One of the things I was not going to do, and respectfully, people have done this and that's all good. I wasn't coming out of music to set up a music studio to work with children in the local area.
No.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to understand the theoretical, the system, and the true drivers for behavioural change, but also the true systemic and structural challenges that cause these children and families to get involved in stuff. So,
But I was going to say this, though, that you still, having had that, we touched on this before in terms of ego, you didn't have an ego.
No,
Your
it's
thing
just-
was also with our marriage, you were like, I'm a married man. I would like to know that want to make provision for my family as well. This is your mindset. You might not remember, but you said,
I remember,
and I
to
want
this
to
day.
make massive changes.
Yeah.
And for you to then do all of that, having volunteered, having gone through, and then decided, you know what, I want to have even more impact.
Yeah.
I'm going to take myself back to uni.
Yeah, well, I hadn't gone to uni. It was my first experience.
And this is what I'm saying.
'cause
I'm gonna
my
take
university was damaged. It was
Yeah.
traveling the world.
100%.
But then I said, actually,
Yeah.
I don't want to be.
Well, it's like you hit a ceiling, don't you? And you wanted to surpass that.
I didn't want to be
Sorry.
I didn't want to be a mentor to children without understanding the theory that underpins this discipline. So the first thing I did is I went to university and I spent 3 years, and I was at uni full time.
Yeah.
And I was working
Believe
full time.
me, I knew, because this is what I was going to tie it into.
Uni full time, working
With
full
you
time.
at uni full time, I'd fallen pregnant. I hadn't had a very easy pregnancy. I was quite ill, very ill, in and out. My auntie would accompany me to appointments. My mum was working, so she couldn't always be there. But I'm saying within that, you started that university course with the mindset of, and you said, I'm going to get a first class honours degree.
Yeah, I didn't have time to waste.
No, but
Yeah.
it's okay to think that,
Yeah.
but to say that.
Manifestation, right?
Yeah, not just, it was a number one manifestation, obviously, but an answer to prayer. But your focus became very intense because, as you said, you didn't have time to waste. So much so that, so when we talk about sacrifice as well, you couldn't be at all the appointments, but that's where family came in, because don't worry, you go and do that. Do you, like, you'd be in libraries all times of night?
Because I was saying I was working full time in the youth justice service or the youth offending team, and studying full time.
Yeah.
So you were running between campus and job and home.
Yeah.
And that was for a 3-year period.
But it still comes down to the focus,
Oh,
the
the
drive,
focus, absolutely,
the wanting to provide, the will to want to make things better. And I think,
and to know our craft.
yeah, 100%. But it's still like, people say a lot of things.
Yeah.
You know, in the interim of that as well, before I'd done counselling courses, I'd been doing my teaching assistant course, but it's still something else to say, then I'm going to take it up a notch and go and get a degree, and I'm going to get a first class honours degree.
Yeah.
And even when I was ill, throughout the time, I was in hospital, sick.
Yeah.
And I remember when you graduated.
Yeah.
And I went to your graduation ceremony, and it was only then
that they knew,
that they found
well,
out.
some of them. So again, this is all about the pivot, right? When I finished university, I got a 2-1.
Just realised my hands have been there. Sorry.
That's all right. When I finished uni, I got a 2-1. And I remember getting the 2-1, and it didn't sit well.
No, I
not
was
because,
not interested in the 2-1 for you.
No, it didn't sit well because I know the work that I'd put in.
Yeah.
So I went back to them, and I explained to them what had been happening around the exams. And I remember them saying...
Who told you to appeal?
No, so just before that, darling, just before that, God,
Tell it as it is.
Just telling the whole...
Yeah, but it's the truth.
No, so just before that, the exams have been very difficult because of what had been going on at home. And because of what had been going on with you in terms of your health, we're bringing our daughter into this world.
Yeah.
And we had extenuating circumstances, which all universities do. And at that point, you said, as my wife, you need to tell them what you've been managing whilst you've been doing this.
Because I could see how hard you'd been working. I could see how hard you were working within the team that you had been a part of as well.
In the office, you mean?
In the office.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I was like, this is unfair.
And also, they don't know.
They have no idea.
So they said, if you can go to the hospital and you can get some evidence about what your wife's been through, we will take that into account in terms of your extenuating circumstances. When I walked into the hospital and we got these documents, and I remember them also giving me images of your body and what had happened, and you know the just how traumatic it had been.
Yeah.
When we gave that to university, they said thank you.
Yeah.
They looked at it. A couple of weeks later, we were sitting at home, and I got an email, and it said your appeal has been accepted. And because of this, we've recalculated all of your marks across the 3 years, and we are proud to award you a first-class honours degree. And that was part of the pivot.
Yeah.
After that,
you deserved it, though.
We deserved
You'd worked
it.
You know, you had worked so hard, and as a team, we'd been through so much. But because that's what I keep going back to, because you'd put that effort in right from the start.
Yeah.
And you'd said it, you deserved it. And once they calculated it, and I remember your graduation, they were like, we wish we could have had 500 Andres because we never knew. You know, like when people make excuses, oh, my dog ate the homework.
Oh,
this. You never said it once. You never let that adversity get in the way.
No.
And as a team, that's what I mean. We ran across that finish line together.
Yeah, no, we grafted.
Yeah.
We grafted.
Yeah.
And we got it done. And then after that, we said, right, the pivot means now head down.
Yeah.
I remember, you know, to the next few years, just learn the craft. And your pivot at that point was becoming what you were, which was mum. You were full-time mama.
Yeah.
You know, raising Princess Heaven in the early days.
Some of that, and I will say she is, she's my biggest and greatest success story. She really is. She went through so much. She was born teeny tiny baby, 2 pounds. Miracle,
Miracle baby.
an absolute
absolutely.
miracle.
The baby that they told us we wouldn't have.
Yep,
Yeah.
they said 99.9% miscarriage.
Yeah.
I would have, and they told you.
That's because they follow textbooks where our faith is a whole different ballgame.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But with my complications,
Yeah.
fibroids being some of them, getting in the way of where she laid in my tummy. So, you know, and having to be hospitalised
Yeah.
for 40 nights,
Yeah.
having to have steroid injections in my
hold
legs
her in.
to hold her in.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Waters breaking at 27 weeks.
Yeah.
Not knowing whether she would stay in and then coming out at 29 weeks. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And but we made it through, and to this day, that's what I will always say. When people say, you know, each to their own with what they believe and what they choose to believe, but when people say that God isn't real, he showed up so many times for us.
And still does to this day.
Consistently.
Yeah.
But I mean, for her to, I never forget, I used to hold my tummy and I used to pray, let this baby be born in God's image and likeness, nothing broken, nothing missing.
Yeah.
And she came out as the perfect, most little 2 pound bundle.
Yeah, 1.3 kilograms.
Yeah, and you saw her first. I couldn't see
saw
her
first. Yeah.
I was so ill, I couldn't see or touch her for the first 7 days.
Yeah.
And that was hard.
Yeah, I mean, this again is another pivot, because we, you know, every time we have these watershed moments in our life or in our marriage, you and I lock in together.
Yeah.
We lock in with our faith. And we go to God and we say, please, like, take us through this.
Yeah.
And we have incredible family and friends, because when I first saw Heaven, our princess, she came out in an incubator.
Yeah.
And she was blue.
Yeah.
And we must say shout out to King's College Hospital, because they
were phenomenal.
and they continue to be.
What is it? NICU.
NICU, yeah. They were, and they continue to be incredible in our yearly visits, just to check on Heaven and how she's doing, or our annual visits, right?
Yeah.
But when I saw her in the incubator, she was blue. The surgeon came out and said, your wife has lost a lot of blood.
He was shaking.
Yeah, emergency C-section, and I don't know if she's going to survive.
And you held his hand.
I turned to him and I said, she will.
Yeah, you said that's not part of
I said, that's not part of God's plan.
Yeah.
So he looked at me like,
as he was shaking, you held his hand.
he looked at me like, on textbook page 86, if a patient has bled like this and it is a premature birth, the recovery rate on this, you know, is very low.
Yeah.
But I held him and said, brother, nah. And I got on my phone.
And where did you go to as well? You went to our parents.
No, I got on my phone and I text everybody who was in our immediate circle. And I said, whatever you're doing, stop and pray now. Because they are saying this and I need us to counteract this. And everybody, all of our people, I can think some of my work colleagues, some of our closest family, obviously, everybody, whatever they were doing, they spoke into you in Heaven. And both of you came through. You came through.
Yeah.
I
came round and I had 4 drips.
Yeah.
2 in this hand, 2 in that hand.
Yeah.
You'd seen her and I remember saying to you, baby, what did we have? And you were like, oh, it's a girl.
So she's a little girl and she's beautiful. Yeah. And then we got to, and you were in that, oh, baby, yeah.
I know, it's
but
fine.
that's just fine. Anytime we talk about Heaven, because it takes us right back, but it takes you right back to that moment of waking up, baby. I remember when you woke up and you were like, baby, what did we have? You weren't saying it like that because you was under the...
Yeah, I was under all of it, drugs. All the drugs.
And, you know, what did we have? And I said, baby, she's a girl.
Yeah.
And then you didn't see her for
7 days.
7 days because you weren't well enough to go upstairs.
No, I had to be. The first time I saw Heaven, I was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And I was brought up to the incubator.
Yeah.
And I remember looking in the incubator and still thanking God because obviously she was still here.
Yeah.
And I knew how fortunate and blessed we were to have her.
Wow.
And we hadn't named her at all yet.
Wow.
And I remember looking in the incubator because when I was told that I was going to have her prematurely, you went to the ward. They had a ward visit, but I refused to go because I couldn't bear the thought of thinking, what if she doesn't make it?
Yeah.
So I had to just stay with, she's going to make it, so I'll just keep her here. Yeah. And I remember putting my hands in the incubator, pulling back the little blanket that she was covered in and literally going to her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to her toes.
Yeah, no,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to her fingers.
Yeah.
She had lots of hair.
Yeah.
And
she had a drip.
She had a drip, CPAP.
CPAP, to help her.
And little lungs helping her breathe. There was a lot to take in.
Jaundice, she was under the light for jaundice. There was a lot that went on Princess Heaven.
But That was our
fought.
little miracle.
And she fought.
She fought hard.
And she knew we were her parents early. She would smile at us.
Yeah, like, and people,
yeah.
you know, people say it was wind, but we've even got the picture of her.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
she's
of her
got all her
smiling.
heart suckers all over her, and she's like
Yeah.
this.
And our family and friends would come and visit her in the incubator.
But we were very selective with who
Yeah.
came to the
Of
hospital
course, yeah.
to see her.
Yeah, because words are important.
Yeah.
And we didn't want distress.
No.
So you don't want people coming to see your child in that moment when we are speaking and we are praying that she's going to recover. I don't need somebody coming in distress.
No.
So we were very careful about who came to see her.
And we prayed over her, and we prayed over the nurses.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
single nurse
Oh, for sure.
in there for all the babies, and we prayed that all of them would leave
Yeah.
happy and healthy. So that was a massive, becoming a mother, as I said, and I'll go back to, was one of my, and still is, one of my greatest achievements. I look at her now, all the 15 years of age she is, and all that she's been through and all that she's encountered, and she is a true answer to prayer.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, even with the mood swings when she decides to
I
throw
don't
them.
experience the mood swings. Maybe it's just you. Yeah. But
she's wonderful. I love her.
So these are the pivots, right?
love her.
So your pivot was definitely music into becoming a teaching assistant, teaching assistant to becoming a mama.
Yeah.
And then you had to pivot again and you moved back into music and performing arts.
Confidence coaching.
Confidence coaching. You were doing counselling. But in it, the thread as a husband and wife couple, never lose purpose.
No.
So I never turned to you at any point and said, you know what, baby, I'm going to become a plumber.
No,
I never
because it
said
wasn't in alignment.
No,
with
not
you.
unless we're going to sing and do something in the plumbing world where, you know, it wasn't in alignment. So whatever pivot we made, we've always supported each other in a way that we said, yeah, but don't go too far away from your purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
We've always been a team. And I think, again, going into parenthood for both of us, I mean, you've been a phenomenal present, loving, caring, kind father.
Yeah.
That she could ever want or ask for.
Yeah.
Dedicated, committed. I think you're struggling, I'm not going to lie now, with her little transition as she grows
I'm not struggling,
older.
Heaven, because Heaven's going to watch this, so I'm not struggling
I
at
think
all.
you
darling.
are, because
I'm
in
not
your
struggling
head-
at all.
In your head, she's still about 5 years old.
No.
Yeah.
No, she's 15.
You're saying all the right things, but I know I see.
I think Heaven's perfect.
No, not
I think-
you.
yeah.
I said how you see her.
No,
You've got to
we're in a different
be
stage.
honest.
Yeah, we're in a different stage.
Yeah.
And the stage is that she's growing and she's maturing.
But in your eyes, she's still your little girl. She'll always will be a little girl, but I mean,
she'll always be,
Yeah.
daddy's little girl for sure.
but and then one of the most phenomenal things also with that, which I'll say is Heaven is a premature baby. She was due September 26th. She came 11 weeks premature.
Yeah, wow.
And my birthday is June the 11th.
yeah,
Her birthday is July the 11th.
Yeah.
And your birthday is August the 11th.
and that's how we know.
She's slap bang in the middle of the two of us.
It's
I
like
mean,
4 weeks apart, all
you
of us.
couldn't
It's incredible.
all 11s
Yeah.
a month apart. Is just that's also for me God's little sweetener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So very special on the concept of how we've had to pivot in our marriage, and we continue to. But you know, if there was a takeaway from this, it's when you are pivoting, stay locked in together.
Stay in the
And
lane where
your purpose.
your purpose
Don't
isn't
you know?
so
Don't ask
deviate.
don't ask your wife or your husband to deviate away from their purpose. Absolutely, you have to do things to generate income,
Yeah.
and you have to do things which further you as a family. But let's not get down 30, 40 years down the line and say, you made me leave my dream.
No.
We never did that. We always said, let's stick with it and let's have that running through whatever choices we make.
And also be each other's biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
It's important because even as you're pivoting, you need to know that you've got that support.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, whether you are married, whether you are in a relationship, engaged, or whether you're fabulous and single. I always
and
say
single,
that.
yeah.
Make sure that you have people around you that are encouraging you, building you up, inspiring you, motivating you to be the best that you can be, and also in alignment with your purpose.
The words are so important. Speak to the treasure.
And the treasure will come forth.
There we go.